restaurants, for those that have survived, it's been a tough slog to get back to normal. About 2.5 million jobs are still absent in the leisure and hospitality space. It's quite a bit relative to pre-pandemic levels back in February. 2.5 million jobs still not back yet. And the restaurants that have been battling their way back are still dealing with some issues, especially when it comes to ghosted reservations. But Opentable is trying to do something on that front to help. And now I want to bring in the CEO of Opentable, Debby Soo, joins us once again. And Debbie, good to be chatting with you. I mean, obviously, they've been dealing with enough when it comes to these restaurants trying to get back to normal, but no one wants to see reservations or customers not show up to those. So what are you guys doing to maybe help out at a time when restaurants need all the help they can get?
Great to be here, Zach. Thanks for having me. You know, as you said, restaurants have been through a really tough time, and it's amazing to see that demand is coming back. People are feeling safer. People are dining out again. Unfortunately, we are seeing no-shows persist. And, you know, I think for the regular diner, you don't think it's a big deal. Like, oh, yeah, I forgot or I didn't make it. But it's extremely disruptive for a restaurant's P&L, especially for restaurants who are just trying to get back on their feet right now. To give you an example, I was speaking to a restaurant in San Francisco called Terzo. On a Friday night, she had 8 no-shows, and that's the difference between a profitable night and a not profitable night. So on Opentable's part, we're doing everything we can to encourage diners. If you can't make your reservations, please let the restaurant know. We text you, we email you. If you load up our app, you can very easily cancel. Even canceling, an hour before helps the restaurants so they can figure out ways to fill that seat. And especially during, post-pandemic or in some places still pandemic times, walk-ins aren't as prevalent as they used to be. So they can't rely on that foot traffic as much as they used to. Reservations are really important, but no shows, please do cancel if you can't make it.
Obviously, this is just one of many things that restaurants are having to deal with as they try to bounce back. And I wonder, when you look at the latest data, where does capacity stand? You talked about foot traffic picking up again. Where are you seeing the biggest bounce back?
We're seeing everywhere, especially here in North America, bounce back to pre-pandemic levels. There's still some of the major cities like New York and San Francisco and LA, where there are some days that are still lower than 2019. But for the majority of US cities, demand is back or exceeding 2019 levels. It's a different story in some of our international markets, but here in the US, we're pretty much back.
I know. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who would be happy to hear that. When it comes to the no-show policy, though, I feel like it might be, you're caught in a tough in-between. You want to help out the restaurants, but also, you don't want to necessarily exclude customers at a time when there's pretty intense competition in that space. I mean, how do you walk that tightrope to help both parties there? I mean, how much maybe debate went into a decision like that?
A lot of debate went into this decision, Zach, and it is a fine line, as you mentioned. We want to make sure that we're supplying our restaurants with the most number of guests that they can seat, but we also want to keep our guests accountable, right? So there is a 4 strikes and you're off our platform policy here. So if you no-show for 4 reservations, you're not going to be able to use Opentable for that year. And that's something that we feel very strongly about. And, we have an advisory council at Opentable with various restaurateurs. They also thought that was a great idea. It's a way to protect the restaurants while not being so punitive. I mean, 4 no-shows, that's actually quite a bit. So, if you're listening, just cancel. We make it real easy for you to cancel.
It also helps to put down a credit card. I will say that I respond to that one directly. If you know that you're going to get charged, if you don't show up. I want to get back to the broader picture because I'm thinking back to a year ago when there was so much talk about doom and gloom in the restaurant space, and you had a number of restaurants, obviously in New York City, major cities across the country really shut down. While you're talking about capacity returning to 2019 levels in restaurants that are currently operating, what does the overall landscape look like when you compare it to where things were pre-pandemic?
We're seeing here in the US about 20% of the restaurants that were previously on our platform are not on there right now or inactive right now. When the pandemic first started, we anticipated that 1 in 4 restaurants wouldn't make it through. And generally, the numbers that we're seeing now are supporting that hypothesis. For the 80% of restaurants that are open and taking reservations on Opentable, those restaurants are often exceeding what they were seating in 2019. And a lot of that has to do with the outdoor dining capacity, right? If you're walking through cities, you'll see that in a lot of streets, they've closed down streets or they extended sidewalks to allow for outdoor dining. So restaurants also have more capacity than they did in 2019, which is also accounts for this uptick in dining that we're seeing.
I mean, there's a lot of people rooting for a lot of these restaurants. So happy to see you guys trying to do whatever you can there. 4 no-shows. I'm on the same page. You know, you got more than 4 no-shows in a year. Someone's got to check on that family. Reminds me of a Mitch Hedberg joke there, but someone's got to look into them. Debby Soo, appreciate you joining us here, the CEO of Opentable. Be well.